What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast, because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that is with gratitude. Shout out to all of our supporters, specifically all the members from the MDC Strategy Membership Group, By the Hood University students, as well as the youth from the By the Hood Ownership Camp. Shout out to y'all that's still watching and listen to our podcast. It is appreciated. Everything is appreciated. I'm joined by my partner in crime as always, Core. Core, what's up, good brother?
What's really good, man? Every day above ground's a good day, so let's go get it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And listen, man, this episode, right? So for those who are tuning in for the first time, because we always get new folks that are listening as well as watching, if you are watching this on the YouTube or the Facebook page. Our show, what we talk about here, personal finance and black wealth. So, we relate everything back to our folks, but we see how those two things work hand in hand, and that is personal finance and black wealth. Today, I have an interesting article that I want to talk about briefly, Core. Okay. And I want to see if, our audience has any experience with this, but it was an article I came across, and this is from Yahoo Finance, by the way. And for those that are just listening in, which is a majority of our audience who listens to the pod, I'm going to read parts of the article to give you some context so you can understand what it is we're talking about. If you are watching, you'll see the article as I scroll through it briefly on the video. But the article from Yahoo Finance, which they got from Fortune magazine, or Fortune, the website rather, it says new hires are considering quitting within the first 6 months because of 3 onboarding issues. It talks about 3 onboarding issues, although it only really goes over 2 in the article. But there's a couple of onboarding issues that are making people want to leave jobs even faster. And shout out to Paige McLaughlin, who wrote this piece. But what it says is this, right? And it has a lot of data. So, everybody knows I love data. It says the honeymoon phase of a new job is getting shorter. Just 38% of new employees who have worked at a company for less than 6 months plan to stay at their organization for 3 or more years. And that's according to a recent report from Qualtrics. That percentage is slightly smaller for frontline workers, which is 34%. Right. So according to this report, 65% of new hires say they're highly engaged with their job, which is a 1% decrease from the year prior. Right. So 68% of longer tenured employees are engaged with their job. 66% of new hires say they feel included at their company. And that's a 4% drop from the year prior. Right. 73% of all other employees, say they feel included.
Okay.
So now, here's what it says. This in the past, the employee experience looked like a U-shaped curve where new and long tenured employees both had more positive experiences, engagement than other workers. But it's a departure. They said now it's more of like a hockey stick relationship where the new hires' attitudes were lower than the overall average. And that's something that they've never seen before. So going deeper into the article, what it says is this, a couple of the hypotheses on why this is happening. It says, first, as employers raise salaries to keep up with competitive wages, workers accepted new jobs offering higher pay or more lucrative benefits, only to discover they didn't like the role attached to the salary. So we're going to dig into that one, right? So just to, summarize that, one of the reasons why people are taking jobs for more money only to find out they hate those jobs, right? So the other part they talk about is that organizations are spending less time onboarding employees than on talent recruitment. So by their own account, HR leaders have deprioritized the onboarding experience. While 50% of executives say talent attraction and hiring are a top priority, just 41% say the same for onboarding, right? So between recruitment and just onboarding those employees, less time is being spent. So it says that employees who left within the first 6 to 12 months cited feeling out of sync with the company's culture, mission, and didn't understand their impact and discovered their responsibilities were not as advertised. I know you talked about that for a second, Core. So it's a couple issues here, right? And I don't have to keep showing the article. Those that saw it. Those that heard it. But the gist of what we're talking about is this. People are falling out of love with their job a lot faster than they used to in the past, specifically people taking new jobs. And, they say when other folks get the cold, we get the flu. So this affects our community in a whole different way.
For sure.
All right. So I want to ask you a question, open the floor, let Corey say what he got to say. But I want to preface it by talking about some of the major issues, which are people taking jobs for more money just to figure out they hate those jobs, right? That's one.
Yeah.
2, less time is being invested into onboarding those employees to get them to understand what the mission is, what the vision is, what the company is doing.
And then the third issue was that people felt lied to, like it was incompatible with what they were told when they first got there.
So which one of those 3 issues, right? So I said 2 because the 2 ones are the ones they really go into in the article, the one they just mentioned, but you got all 3 of them. So out of those 3 issues there, which one do you have any experience with? Which one like resonates with you? Which one when you hear you say, oh, I see that, or is it all of them?
Definitely the third one, which is feeling lied to. Like you get in a position and it says one thing in your job description, and then you get there and they ask you to do 50 things that are not in your job description, and then they talking about flexibility. And I literally have a degree in the administration of human services, which is an HR degree, and I used to paste my job description to my desk. So I had the freedom to say no.
So it's funny, right? Because I guess it depends upon which kind of organization you work for. Because I think of this from 2 different levels. I think of this as someone who runs a business and someone who also works at someone else's business.
No, I was about to say, like, for some jobs, that was just, I never did that. You know what I mean? Like, because they bring you in, they give you your job, and then they give you the tools to do your job, and then you don't run into those issues, right? I've had wonderful jobs where none of that happened, and then I've had the kind of jobs where your supervisor keep asking you to do something that is not on your job description, and it's because somebody that has that in their job description isn't doing it.
So the second one to me is the one that makes it stand out to me. Like when you're not spending time onboarding or delivering expectations, teaching people what the mission and vision is. Because if someone buys into the mission and vision,
I don't ask them to do anything.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going, right? Because they bought into what it is you're trying to do as an organization.
Yeah.
So I think that part is crucial. But the first point is something that I see in my personal life with like family or friends. I see it all the time where that dollar sign is what they chase. And then they get there and say, what did I get myself into? Right. Yeah. And obviously you don't know until you try. But in my personal experience, that's something that I've seen with family and friends where they get into jobs.
They run into a bag, and then they also run into the responsibilities that come with that bag, and they just be like, "Hold on."
Yo, and then they're miserable. It's like, yo, you're making all money, but you hate your life.
Yeah, man.
And that is something that's like very, very interesting to me.
I'm gonna be 1,000. I've done that a few times where I got a job where they paid me way more than the previous, we went to the previous job, or, I did a lot of contract work. I get into contracts with these companies and these schools and stuff. And I'm like, man, they can't pay. Like, this is not even the greater amount of money is not enough money to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, I'll leave money on the table. Like, I've quit contracts and jobs and had to pay back money because it was just too much. Like, I'm not doing all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and then sometimes I don't get the money back because they be breaching the contract all left and right. Again, I'm in, my degree is in the administration of human services, which is an HR degree. So I look at contracts, in a whole different way than most people do. You know what I mean? Like, when I look at a contract, like when you give me my contract with the job description, I'm thinking I'm going to be doing that 90% of the time. You know what I mean? I understand that sometimes, you got to be flexible. There's weather issues. There's issues that happen within the framework of the job that change what your job description is. I'm willing to work with all of that. But when you give me a job description, when I first start working somewhere, I'm figuring to do that 90% of the time. If I'm not doing that 90% of the time, I'm going to have a really, really big issue with doing that job, because you hired me for something, like, and then like if you add responsibilities, you got to add money with me. You cannot add responsibility without adding money, because that for me is a no-no.
But here's the thing though, sometimes
that's a pay cut.
Yeah, but sometimes people will take extra responsibility for the extra money and then realize like it ain't worth it.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So let me tell you real quick. So I just got back I spent a week in New Orleans at FinCon.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman there. His name was Steve Chu, and he wrote a book, and he was talking about his book. It's called The Family First Entrepreneur. To be completely honest, I haven't read it. He gave me a free copy of the book, so I have the book, but I just haven't read it yet. He gave me the hardcover book, but he talked about the gist of his book, and he talks about we're in an age now as business owners where everybody is trying to scale and get big and create billion-dollar brands and billion-dollar companies. And his thing was, I always want to put my family first. And he basically was like, yo, F scaling. If I can make enough money where my wife doesn't have to work, we have our own time. I don't need to be responsible for 200 employees and HR and all this. He was like, I don't even want that. And it led to a conversation about stress. And from an employee standpoint, and also from an entrepreneurial standpoint, one of the things we never talk about or look at is the level of stress, right? Yep. We got a comment on one of our YouTube videos recently, and it was a video we had talked about some of the bad parts of real estate. And the comment was interesting to me because they said it was a dope comment, and salute to them for the people that left the comment. It said, man, appreciate talking about the bad parts because all people talk about are the good parts, right? So when you go online, people talk about the good parts of whether that's their job, they have a great tech job they love. But they never talk about like when you work those great tech startups, you work in 18 hours, right? If they're talking about real estate, talk about the closings and the refinancing. They never talk about the tenant they don't pay. They never talk about the property falling down, right? All they talk about is the good parts. So when we talk about stress, we have to look at both sides of it, right? There's pluses and minuses with everything. So when I read this
article, that's part of the reasons why I don't do real estate the same way most people do it, because I know some of those things would stress me out.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it in the video that they commented on, right? And that was one of the things is there's a number of ways to do real estate, right? But the fact of the matter is you have to figure out what works for you. Some people, they thrive in that. They thrive in
sure. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm high strung. Like if people keep peopling and always in my, you know what I mean? Like if people keep peopling and doing what people do, you know what I mean? Like with the bugaboo stuff, always, you know, not paying and all that. Like I'm too high strung for all of that. I can't, I can't deal with that because my reaction to that, I know what my reaction is that.
But that's the thing. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with you. What you're talking about there is self-awareness, right?
Yeah, man.
So another speaking of FinCon, I also got a chance to talk to the couple, Rich and Regler.
They're dope. I like their stuff.
Yeah, I love them as well. Their stuff is dope. But I got a chance to actually meet and talk to them. And one of the things they talked about was they have rental properties, but they got rid of their rental properties to kind of double down on their digital business because this was their happy place. This is what they wanted to do. And it wasn't necessarily about the money. Everything's not about the money. And it's easy to say, because I've heard people tell me that too. So I talk a lot of times to young folks about some of my thoughts or beliefs or just my experience. And one of the pushbacks I always get, well, you seemingly got your career and everything together. So that's easy for you to say, I got to chase this paper while I'm young.
Yeah, man.
And I get that. But I also, because of my experience, have seen people put the money first, always put the money first, and their bodies are broken down.
Yeah, they never fall back off of putting
they broke, busted, and disgusted and hate life. And they ain't got no family, they ain't got no woman. Like I've seen it, you know. And again, that's not everybody's story. But as I read this article, that's the first thing that stuck out to me was like, man, people aren't investing in getting people to buy in. Is one, and two is people chasing the money only to find out, like, you know, well, what they say, they're chasing waterfalls.
Yeah.
They're not sticking to the rivers and the lakes that they used to.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's going to be interesting because we're coming out of the pandemic in which they said that everybody kept saying no one, it was funny. We don't have people to take these jobs. No one's qualified for these jobs, blah, blah, blah. But then on the other side, you say nobody wants to work. Who knows what the truth is?
Like, my thing is, are you going to train them to do the jobs? Like, there's people that want to do those jobs, but then you have to train them. Are you going to spend the money to train them? What you want is, see, this goes back into a deeper conversation about how this country was built. This country was built on free labor, not cheap labor, free labor. And so one of the means of production and the most costly means of production is human capital. And so when you got to pay people, that's what companies go, up and down with their prices. You know what I mean? Like if you ever notice in the stock market, when jobs cut people, they actually get a boost in stock price. And that's because human capital costs so much.
But I think there's another part of this too, right? So I was watching something on YouTube, and it was a guy was talking about his perspective was, and I live on YouTube, so I be in all kinds of crazy rabbit holes. But this guy was talking about his hustle was going from startup to startup, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, he didn't want to be an entrepreneur, but he recognized you go to startups, you can sometimes get equity and make large sums of money. So he was basically like a hitman. I'm going from this startup to that startup. But one of the things he talked about in the startup culture is this thing about hyper growth, always having to be growing. And when you're always having to grow, you sometimes move so fast that you don't end up with long-term employees because you're not taking the time to invest in them. It makes me think about all the content when I hear people in the music business, and they always talk about how they don't have artist development no more. They don't spend time with the artists.
Nope, not at all.
It's like, it's like a revolving door.
You gotta come ready-made now because of the social media age. You gotta have a following and all of that stuff. They don't spend time with talented artists and develop them over time like they used to. Like I remember like an example, and most people probably don't even know who this is, but I remember an artist like CeCe Peniston, right? CeCe Peniston started off like I'll go even bigger. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross was part of Patti LaBelle's backup singers.
He was even before a backup singer. He was the president of her fan club. He like got her mail.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about development over time, right? You know what I mean? Like he went.
So there's an interview that just dropped recently. It's Lyre Cohen, the famous music executive. He's on Vlad TV. And one of the things he said, I watched a clip of it. Again, me spending too much time on damn YouTube, and the algorithms be like, here. Algorithms know what I like, dog. My YouTube algorithms is crazy because they be having me trapped. But anyway, it was a quick snippet of his long interview. I didn't listen to the long interview, but in the snippet, he said the music business treats artists like day trades in 2023.
Damn.
That's the analogy he used. It's not my words, his. He said they day trade artists. Damn. It's like, and a lot of it is because of short form content. Maybe you can get popping off of the song that goes on TikTok or IG. Like, all right, what's next? Like they're just day trading them instead of holding them like long-term investments. And he was talking about, I think Vlad had brought up like in Motown, they used to have artists that will be there for years, just working, and they catch a hit and become superstars. But they've been there a decade already. Those days are gone. Like you're day trading artists. And I know we went off way over here, but it all relates to what we're talking about because companies are using employees like that.
Yeah, they're day trading their employees. They're like, all right, you don't want to be here, we'll find somebody who will. And they just hire a batch of people.
Yeah, and it's funny because like back in the day with older companies, I remember even having like, I got my godparents. I love my godparents to death, and they made a nice. I don't want to put their business out there, but they made a nice living. They worked at IBM back in the 80s. Like it wasn't even that many of us there.
Yeah,
but they was in the room, and it was interesting because if you ever met someone or know someone that worked in corporate America at a high level, they have a certain level of buy-in. When you talk about them and their company, they don't say, yo, my company does this. They be like, we. Like, yo.
Because they got stock options and
they're invested in the vision and the mission, right? And they're bought in, whether that's with equity or just time, whatever it may be, they're bought in. But the thing is, I don't see that anymore. So what does this mean long term? If companies are treating employees just like day trades,
but there are companies who do the exact opposite. Like what I read in here, Google is a company that doesn't do it that way.
Yeah, I've read that they call them Googlers. Like, yeah, people buy in there.
Yeah, like so there are companies, and I think those companies will be thriving. You know what I mean? So those companies who keep a little bit of the old school ways. You don't have to be old school to keep some of the old, like, our ancestors built pyramids. We haven't been able to do so. So everything that's old is not silly and dumb. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't want me to get my conspiracy bag about the pyramid.
No,
I told you.
Listen, Rome got cobble paved streets that have been perfect for 3,000, 4,000 years.
Yeah,
and you put down cobblestone in any inner city in anywhere in America, and that joint break. You know, you got to replace the cobblestones every 20 years.
So you're saying your thing is just because it's newer doesn't mean it's better.
It's not always better because it's new.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So some of these new things
that works both ways. Just because
it's older doesn't mean it's better either.
Yeah. But the question I have is
you have to figure out what works. You know what I mean? Because some of those some of those things work. You know what I mean? Like the reason why 100-year companies, 100-year company, because they found things that work. You know what I mean? And then they stick to those things. The reason why what's the name? What's the boy? The Nebraska boy, the Omaha boy.
Peyton Manning?
No, man.
Warren Buffett. You said Omaha, dog. First thing I think of Omaha, I think of my man Peyton Manning.
Omaha. Oh no, he's not. No, but the thing about what works for him is because he does what works. He does what works. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't really very, very often. He doesn't go.
No, and that's a great point.
He doesn't stray into things that doesn't work very often.
It's funny, right? Because we try not to talk about Duke because he ain't one of us. But at the end of the day, some of his
philosophy
his philosophy, it always comes up in us. Somehow he always gets mentioned in our show. But that's because, to your point, to use a euphemism, he stick to the script. Right? Yeah. He like, yo, I'm gonna stick to the script and I'm just gonna do what I do, right? All that other stuff, I'm gonna stick to the script. But also what I think about with him in reference to this conversation is as everything is moving one way, right? He's doing his thing, and that's continuously work for him. Recently, me and you were talking about like, yo, they have more valuable assets than anybody. And that's with them skipping the tech wave, skipping the crypto wave, skipping the AI wave. They don't go chasing waterfalls, right? So I think that's an interesting thing to bring that up. But I guess the question I have is, and it's funny because, shout out to my brother Dev, but I talk to Dev all the time, and he always be like, he's like an old man. He'd be like, man, this microwave society we live in. And most of the time it's me and him talking about sports and how sports are hip hop and how everything is about, like right now, it's not about building anything, taking time to build anything. But it's funny how, like, sports, music, culture is all a microcosm of everything. It's like things have permeated into the workplace and the business world.
Yep.
Yeah, we see on like other levels where, you're day trading employees. Like it's crazy. Capitalism is wild, bro. Because all this goes back to capitalism.
It is. It's about human capital, which is what I was talking about earlier. It's about how much you got to pay that human capital and what do you get from them for what you pay for them.
But what's the resistance point? Because at some point, I guess maybe that's what's built into capitalism. Everything starts to eat each other. Like you can't keep treating people like trash. You can't keep treating the planet like trash. You can't keep treating, it's like at some point something has to give, bro.
But my thing is greed is one of the strongest emotions. Like greed might be the strongest emotion because greed and fame are the two for me that are like drugs. Like if I have, like, when is it ever enough? Like
you got to throw hate up there too. Hate might be the trifecta of that.
Nah, man. Hate is not in the top 500. Listen, man.
What's his face said that he used to think that the country ran on greed. Who was it? It's Charlie Munger. He was like, I used to think that this whole thing thrived off greed. He said it thrives off hate. Even people's greed sometimes is based on hate. They want more than others because they hate others. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're of things. Anyway, that's a philosophical debate we can get into a different time.
Yeah.
But the point is though, some got to give at some point. That's all I'm saying. Like you can't
it just is given. That's how, because every empire has fallen. So something does give at some point. Yeah. Every empire that's ever been created is always fallen.
This is true. So I guess the next question is,
when does the empire fall?
Yeah, where we moving to? It's time to start making our exit plan.
Yeah, every empire that's ever been created is fallen. So at some point, this empire will fall like the others.
No, that's a
when
great
do
point.
you create? When do you? What's your exit plan when the empire falls?
No, that's a great point, dog. That's a great point. That's excellent.
At some point, is like there is a breaking point. There literally is a breaking point for every single empire where it just falls apart.
As we have this conversation, I'm like, damn, this is bad. Like, but I mean, you know. This started as an HR conversation.
It is an HR conversation, though, because it's about human capital.
Yeah, but it's like, dog, you know, and again, this happens when you read. You know, they say when you just constantly read and you get information, you see just how effed up things are. Like, we treat the planet like trash. Like, we don't care about that. I mean, we treat each other like trash. Let's be honest. And I'm talking about humans in general.
You know how crazy it is. When the epidemic happened and they shut the world down for 30 days. That the world healed.
That was crazy. Like they showed the visuals of like flowers looking all pretty, the grass was greener, like everything.
The world just literally healed, which tells me two things, and that I don't really want to say. I'm not saying that on our podcast.
You saying we should have a shutdown once a year for about 2 weeks?
For about a month, just a 30-day hiatus once a year. Like just everybody is off. Nobody can go nowhere. Shut the planes down, shut everything down for a month, man. Like just everybody stay their ass where they at for
let's take every April off. Every April every year. Somewhere.
Yeah, like just so the world can refresh, man, and get it back together, man. Like and then the flip side to that says that we are the problem. We're a virus.
Yeah.
So that I don't want to get too deep into that, but yeah.
How about that? Yeah,
so
I just feel like, man, like, you know, day trading employees is kind of nuts. Like it is like, but this is the world we live in, bro. This is all part of capitalism, man. It's a here I go with my YouTube. It's a YouTube video of this lady, and it was kind of a funny video. And the video was entitled like how Ronald Reagan ruined everything, and she makes an argument how the world just got worse, like progressively worse after him becoming president. And it's kind of, it's kind of in jest, but she's giving some serious points.
Yeah.
All right. And it's like, it just makes me think, man, like capitalism kind of ruins everything. And this is someone who doesn't know if there is a better system, right? And I try to learn as much as I can about it, but I always talk to Kamari about this. I can't ignore the evils of it, right? There's definitely a negative side to it. And it's in how people treat each other, how organizations treat people. And, just kind of summarize this whole article. It's not the employees or the laborer's fault. If you're not investing into me in terms of onboarding, right? And then you're lying to me about what I got to do to begin with. Who's to blame?
Yeah, like, hey, how's that on me?
Yeah, so that's two faults to them, but now to the employee's fault.
You chasing the job just because of the salary.
Yeah, be careful with that too. So, my final questions are this. I'm gonna leave the audience with: Have you ever chased a job for the money just to realize like I made a mistake? You know what I'm saying? Like, I made a mistake. And what are your thoughts on this whole ordeal of people wanting to leave jobs as soon as they get there? Like, where are we headed to in our labor market and in working in general? So I just want to get you guys feedback on that. You got any questions or thoughts before we get out of here, Corey?
Nah, man, just, if somebody knows somebody that can get the world shut down once a year for a month, man, let it, get them in contact with us, man. That for me, that's the greatest idea that I've had in a long time, man. Shut the world down for a month every year, like, you know what I mean? Like, put the world on hiatus, pay everybody their salary, whatever that salary is for a month, and let's just keep it popping for a month, and then open it back up as normal, on the 30th day, man. Let the world heal for 30 days, man. Like,
imagine that as a benefit, right? If you had someone that was hiring, you'd be like, look, part of our compensation package is we give everybody April off. Imagine that.
Man, that is part of the compensation for teachers.
I mean, yeah, some of y'all teachers, y'all get the whole summer off, but
so you got basically July, y'all, because a lot of us got to go back in August.
Yeah.
Oh, you get a month off, so we kind of do got that.
I mean, certain political offices get like months off too.
Certain political offices, damn near every political office. I don't do nothing. Let me shut my
Anyway,
mouth.
yeah, let me shut my mouth too. So let's get out of here, man. All right, for everybody out there listening, man, listen, do all the YouTubey and stuff, subscribe, share, comment, give us some feedback on this topic about what's going on in employment, and let us know what you think. Also, Fridays, we're live on Fridays having a conversation. We always jump on a quick live every Friday evening. We do a Bitcoin giveaway and we, talk trash with our folks. So join us on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Other than that, man, we love y'all. We appreciate the support as always. And remember, man, be good to each other, man. Really stay safe out there because this world is a crazy, crazy place.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man.
You know what I'm saying? But as we always say, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep. Game elevates. We'll see you guys in our next episode. Peace.